Hello and welcome back to the X-Ring. On today's episode, what we're going to do is take a look at the FN Mark 20 SSR. So stick around. All right, so while I'm sure many of you are familiar with the SCAR 16 or 17 series of rifles, this is one of the newer models that you can get, and it's called the SCAR HPR. So they've just rebranded it, and basically it's a SCAR 17 with a non-reciprocating charging handle, but this was specifically set up, and it's pretty much an identical clone to the military version of the Mark 20. But basically they were able to contract this as a sniper support rifle. And so where you're going to see the differences, what we're going to do is we're going to start at the back and work our way front, is you have a non-folding stock. Now this stock is really set up for longer range work, basically being able to hit things at 1,000 meters and further. But basically you have a button on the left side. It looks like something you'd put a tool in, but all you have to do is just press this, and then now you have an adjustable length of pull. So no tools needed for that. Now on the left side again, right here, you're going to press this, and this will allow you to lift the cheek riser. And on the cheek riser, it is extremely comfortable. You've got a lot of different positions. It is a rubberized coating. So this is a solid aluminum piece. It's really nice, very robust. For those that wanted a rear monopod, you do have a Picatinny here on the bottom. Now this is not the factory grip. Now while this is a brand new rifle and it's never been fired, not a big fan of the Hogue grips with the finger grooves, so this has been replaced with a mag pull. Other than that, the safety selector is the same, the magazine release is the same. The only difference is this one has dual non-reciprocating charging handles. So you can move these around, but you have a short stubby one on the right side from the factory, and on the left side you have a drop down very similar to what G&G used to offer back in the day. On the left side you also have a magazine release as well as your bolt release or your bolt hold. Now this is where some of the similarities are different from a 17. You'll notice you've got 3 screws here, and what they've done is they've beefed up that receiver extension because this is really made for longer range work with a 20-inch barrel. You'll also see that this aluminum handguard all the way down, this one-piece monolithic handguard, you have a Picatinny that goes from the front all the way to the rear, and it's one solid piece. So you've got plenty of room to be able to attach anything you'd like, everything from lights to lasers or anything like that. You do have long pick rail sections here at the 3, 9, 6, and 12 o'clock positions. You do have an adjustable gas regulator, and it does have a Surefire comp on here. Now, as far as the differences between the civilian and the military model, one comes with a 3-prong flash hider and iron sights that are stamped MK20, as well as 2 trigger packs. This does come with a trigger made by Geissele. It's the Super SCAR trigger. It is non-adjustable, but is a super crisp, nice trigger for precision rifle work. You also have a sling swivel here on both ends. You guys are already familiar with that. But on the Surefire comp, we are going to be running the SOCOM 260. This one is not chambered in 30 cal. This one's actually chambered in 6.5 Creedmoor, and we will be shooting the Hornady ELDs because you guys know that if you're looking for precision, box Hornady is about as good as you're going to get. Now, as far as changes I've put on the rifle, we have a spur mount here, the cantilever style mount with a Raptor perch from Spur. That way this would actually, you could put a Raptor on it, it'd be great. It does have the LRA, the MV3 level on here with the Spur perch, and it is topped off with the Night Force Bronze 7-35 ATACR. So this is going to be a great setup. They tout that it's sub MOA. This rifle has not had a single round through it. I do have an Atlas BT46 bipod. So what we're going to do is fire the first shot. So we're going to get it on paper, see if it will hold that sub MOA group with the ammunition that I have. Now it might not like the grain weight. I'm going to be shooting 147 grain. And as far as the barrel, this is a cold hammer forged chrome lined 20-inch FN barrel. And FN has really been able to kind of do the whole chrome lined precision barrel thing. They've always made great barrels, and we'll see how well this one performs. And once we install the suppressor, we will move that gas regulator over to the 10 o'clock position so that we're not over-gassing this rifle. Let's go ahead and get some rounds downrange. So for today's video, we're going to be shooting the Hornady match. This is the 147 ELD match. And this is some great stuff. We're going to be shooting this the entire time. Big shout out to Hornady for helping sponsor the channel, and to Kestrel Ballistics. Because anytime, and guys, this is straight out of the box. So this is a brand new rifle. It hasn't had one single round through it. First thing you should do is punch your bore out, and then you should also lubricate all parts, because you don't know how long it's been sitting at the gun store. So I've got 3 rounds here. I need to get it on paper. I do have a camera downrange. And so what we'll do is we'll go for somewhere in the middle of the paper, and then I'll make the correction. All I did was simply bore sight it. So let's go ahead and get 1 round in there. I'm shooting it just like I would when I intend to use it, and that would be with the suppressor in the 10 o'clock gas position. So what we'll do is downrange, we are going to aim at the top paper, target number 4. This gives me some room everywhere else, and then we can go for groups. This way you guys get to see and hear what my first impressions of the trigger and everything are, as far as recoil and everything else. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to aim for position 4, top paper. Here we go. It is a 2-stage trigger. So here we go. Okay. Little bit of gas in the face, even though it's a short stroke piston system. I did feel it. Anytime you shoot suppressed, you should be wearing eye protection, but I did feel a blast into the face. So I'm glad we were in that suppressed position. Now, as far as bore sighting, I think I did a pretty good job. In the shop, I have a place where I can see 50 yards, and I just line through the bore and line through the optic. So elevation actually looks pretty good. The only thing I need to do is I need to come left. And in this case, whether you're using MOAs or mils, you should be able to measure it on your reticle. So in this case, it's going to be almost 0.8 of a mil left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 should be good. We'll see. Let me go ahead and grab some glasses, because that was a lot of blast, and sometimes you can get carbon back into your eyes. So the safety's on. Give me a second. Sayers, I'm going to go ahead and throw this out here, because a lot of you guys are going to say, well, you should have had eyes on in the first place. Typically what you're going to see is in most of your long-range DMR precision rifle matches, when you have an optic, they make an exception for wearing glasses. I'm not making an excuse. I'm just telling you what I do. So now that I know I should be pretty close to my target, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for the top left paper, the S target. It's called the cider target. On the top left, and before I do this, I want to start off with the 3-shot group. Now typically, so that you don't waste ammunition, if you have a magneto speed, go ahead and get your velocities now. However, in this case, this doesn't have an Arca Swiss, and I didn't bring the adapter to be able to hook it up to this for the velocity. And it is a pain to get the gray ops off of the bayonet, so I'm not going to mess with it. I don't need to mess with it. Kestrel set up so that I can put the factory ammunition in here and then just adjust my muzzle velocity if needed. So I'll have 3 rounds here for a 3-shot group, and you guys will see it right out of the box. Okay, it's still high right. That's all right. Let me do another one. Okay, so you guys can see how bad that grouping is, okay? This is right out of the box. But to be fair, it is a brand new barrel. It has no copper in it or anything else. So I'm hoping the accuracy will come in, because by the time we got to shot technically 3 and 4, they were starting to group a little bit better. This is something you'll kind of see whenever you're getting that copper equilibrium within the barrel itself. So I'm not going to base anything off that. However, what I am going to do is I'm getting a lot of gas in the face, like a whole lot. So I'm wondering if the suppressor might be affecting the accuracy. I have no idea. We'll check it here in just a moment. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a correction based off the last 2 shots just to see. So let me see here if the rifle's settling in. That should be about 3/10 up. So I'll go 1, 2, 3 up. And then I still need to go left, probably 2/10. All right, so the MSRP on this rifle is right at $5,000, not including the optics and everything else. So a lot of people will judge it based off the first couple shots, and I don't think that's fair to the manufacturer or to yourself, and indeed it might not like this ammunition. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move over to target number 1, which is the center. Everything's level. Here we go, 3 shots. The trigger is very nice and very crisp. There's 1 almost in the center. There's 2, which is a little higher in the black box. And 3, which that's the same hole as the first one, I believe. So she is starting to come in a little bit, but based on the law of averages and what I'm seeing, I'm going to come down 2/10. I'm going to call it good. This is a precision battle rifle, but that's pretty good. I will tell you that some of the brass is slapping me back in the arm back here. So we definitely have a lot of gas coming back into the action. So what I'm going to do now is put that data into the Kestrel, and then we'll confirm it at, let's say, 500 yards. I'll go ahead and true out my turret for 100 yard 0, and let's see what we get. All right, while we're here, what we're going to do is figure out how to true up our Kestrels and do all of that. So I'm going to hit on the Kestrel Applied Ballistics link, and then I'm going to hit Gun Profile Management, okay? Once I do this, then what I want to do is at the top right-hand corner, I'm going to hit the plus sign. I need to name the rifle. So I need to name it something I'm not going to forget. So in this case, I'm just going to name it a Mark 20. Select bullet from the bullet library. If you come down, you're going to see 264, which is a 6.5. We are shooting the Hornady, and we are shooting the 147 ELD match. Once I do that, I'm just going to choose G7. You can use AB Custom Curve, but for purposes of this, the G7 should work perfectly. I didn't get a muzzle velocity, but that's okay. It's not the end of the world. We are zeroing at 100 yards, not 109, which is the equivalent of 100 meters. And then bore height, this is not that important. You can move this quite a bit without affecting much. And we do have a 1-in-8 twist that's right-handed. So from there, that's all we can do. So we're going to hit save, and now we have that profile there under MK20. Now we need to get it into the Kestrel. So for this demo, I am using the Kestrel, the Elite Ballistics, the 5700X. I'm going to go ahead and turn that on. And once I turn it on, you'll see the 5700X there. I'm trying to do it so it's no glare. And what I'm going to do is hit settings, and I need to make sure that the Bluetooth is on. I just put this on max. That's all I really need to do. And then what I'm going to do is it will find your Kestrel. Otherwise, you can go to connect device. And so these two are talking right now, and we need to get that information into this Kestrel. So while it is looking, we're going to give it just a moment. I don't do any updates, especially if I don't have good service, but I'm going to select that Mark 20 profile. And once I select it, down at the bottom, you should see send profiles, and if you're connected, you'll see connection in green. We're going to send profiles, but this is where you need to append it. If you override it, I'm going to delete the gun profiles I have in here at the moment. So I'm just going to append that into this Kestrel. And that's it. So now I can turn the phone off, or at least get out of the app. And if I exit this, now you can go ahead and turn your Bluetooth off on this because we don't need it and we don't want it to burn up batteries. We're going to hit exit, go to gun, and you guys see Mark 20 in there. So now I am just going to take an environmental because that's important. So I switch it over to live, spin it up a couple times, which really isn't necessary. Once I hit live, I'm going to lock. You want to lock for sure. And then we're going to go over here to target to where we can manually input it, or we can just go to range card. If you don't like the step in here or the profiles for the step, you can always just press the center enter button. And when you do this, you can change your increment. I think 25 is fine. So we're going to exit. And what we'll do is we'll start at 500 yards, which is recommending 2.8 mils. Now we don't know that that's a fact, but we're going to try it. All right, so the Kestrel recommended 2.8 mils, but remember, you need to zero your turret out first. I will tell you on the Night Force Optics, 4 inch-pounds is recommended for the cap screws, and go ahead and set your zero stop pretty close. I never set my zero stop exactly on 0. I always have it where I can roll down about 2.5 mils or so. That way, if I'm running speed drop or anything like that, I can still go negative, but I still have a hard stop before the next rotation of 0. All right, so my turret's zeroed out. This is all I've fired so far. That would be 7 rounds, and you saw those 7 rounds on paper. We're going to take 3 rounds just to confirm here if I need to make any adjustments, just to see if we need to adjust for our muzzle velocity, because we could be faster or slower based on what that 2650 was. Probably slower, but we don't know. We didn't chronograph it. So I'm going to go straight to 500. You guys saw it real time. So let me go to 2.8 mils, which is what the Kestrel recommends. And let's go ahead and go 500 yards. I do have a camera, but it is going to be a little far, and maybe I can zoom it in once I get there. But we have a man steel at 500, or a full-size IPSC. But remember the intended purpose of this rifle and what we're doing with it. So I'm going to hold dead center, 500 yards, 2-stage trigger, taking up the slack, and impact, and the magneto speed went off. We are about 2 inches low and 1 inch right of exactly where I was aiming. So I'd say we're pretty darn close. I really don't want to true out my muzzle velocity yet, because when you go in to calibrate muzzle velocity, it needs to be within 10% of Mach 1.2. So it's going to give you a recommended 0 range for this rifle, but for its intended purpose as a sniper support role, no problem at all dropping a man within 2 inches left or 2 inches down and 1 inch right of where you're aiming. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go straight to 600. Now 600 yards is calling for 3.8 mils. So 3.8, and let's see if 3.8 is on the money or not. 3.8, full-size IPSC. Here we go. Great impact, windage was perfect. I was only about 4 inches low. So that tells me that the data in here has the bullet predicted at going a little faster than what it is. Let's go ahead and see if we can hit 7, or if they actually have the target out there at 7, and they do. And 700 yards is going to be 4.9 mils. Okay, so 4.9, let's see if we get an impact. We'll go for a headshot. I'll aim at the top of the head. Impact. So think about how quickly we're able to do that. We have only expended, let's see, 7, 8, 9, 10 rounds, and we're making impacts all about the 700 yards. And you should be able to do this with any of your rifles as well. I will tell you the recoil impulse is a little sharp. You do get a lot of gas in your face, especially with the suppressor. I don't know if a flow-through style suppressor would help, but it's not uncomfortable. It's just standards have changed. This is a rifle that's been in production for quite a while. We're talking about 2010 when it was fielded, and this is 2023, so we're already 13 years from where that was at. Still a great platform, and remember, its intended purpose was to support the sniper, but still be able to do close fire and close work with something that wasn't crazy cumbersome. The overall length of this rifle without the suppressor is going to come in just a little over 40 inches, and the weight of this rifle without the optic is about 10.5 to 11 pounds, depending on how you have it outfitted. Okay, so at the very top up there, there is a 10-inch by 10-inch steel. I think if we can get dialed in on that, then I think we can call this good and kind of fine-tune what our adjustment needed to be on the Kestrel. So let me go ahead and try the 700, and let's see on that 10-inch by 10-inch steel if we can actually hit it or if I need to adjust a little bit more. So 700 yards. All right, here we go. We're level. Okay, so elevation's perfect, but I was a hair off right. That was just a wind call. So let me go ahead and follow that up with another one. Impact. Now that was, remember, a 10-inch by 10-inch steel. So I know my elevation is spot on for what I was able to do. So now what I should be able to do is calculate speed drop. All right, so in order to calculate your speed drop to find your rifle number, what you're going to do is go down in your main menu to accuracy first. Now, accuracy first must be turned on in the settings menu. So let's go ahead and check that first. So we're going to go down to the settings menu, go to system, and then under system, make sure accuracy first is turned on. The other caveat is you have to be working in mils only, cannot be using MOA, and your environment must be locked. So our environment is locked. We have the first two checked off. Now we go to accuracy first. When you go to accuracy first, you're going to go down, not quick win, not win dot, but speed drop. You enter speed drop, go down until you see calculate. You hit go, and then on this rifle, the Mark 20, this will work from 231 yards to 788 yards. Now what you're going to do is go up. The speed drop number is 1.9. Now that's below your zero at 100 yards. So you're going to dial under zero, 1.9 mils, and this is how this is going to work. Minus 1.9 mils. And what I mean by that is, let me go ahead and clear this, is we are going to go back to zero. This is why I don't do a dead stop on my zero stop. And what I'm going to do, because a lot of people had questions about this before when I talked about this, is we are going to take our elevation here, and we're at zero. I'm going to go minus 1.9. That is the rifle number for this rifle. By doing this, now in a DMR or sniper, whatever you want to call it, whatever term works for you, now what happens is from 239 yards all the way to 700, whatever I see distance-wise is going to be my hold. We've dialed in that rifle drop number, that speed drop number of 1.9. Now whatever I see, 200 yards, 2 mils. 300 yards, 3 mils. What's really cool is you don't know the yardage, somebody can tell it to you. If it's outside of that range, then all I have to do is say, all right, let's hold a little high because we're going to be out of our window. Now you can change the resolution. So let's try this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start at 400. Let's just pretend we're in a hurry here. We're being fired upon, whatever the case is. So you leave this alone. Make sure you can work out of your reticle pretty good. And I'm going to say 400 yards, go. So I'm going to find my target at 4. I hold 4 mils. 500 yards, hold 5 mils. 600 yards, hold 6. And 700 yards, hold 7. Give me just a second to find 7 and... So everything works. If you find something that's 550, now 550 is a small target out here, but let me try it and see. At 550 yards, I'm going to hold 5.5 mils. It's a beautiful thing. It really is, because in this type application, it's so simple. If you don't know, I mean, most of us are going to be able to estimate a distance, but if not, a spotter with a simple rangefinder can tell you the distance, and then you just hold that in your reticle. That, in conjunction with this rifle, is phenomenal. It is a force to be reckoned with. It's a force multiplier. The recoil is a little funny on this. It does kick you just a little bit, and I'm not being a pansy. I'm just telling you that shooting this all day, you're going to know it a little bit. It is a great soft shooting rifle. I think the suppressor does create a little bit of that back pressure, but it is pretty phenomenal. $5,000 is a lot of money, but finding a really, really good AR-10, something like an SR-25 or something like that, this is a great option, and it's super light. So what I want to do is I want to shoot this a couple rounds very quickly at 100 yards, you know, taking care of those close-in targets, then we'll see if we can move it out some. I'm going to try not to scar the rifle up too bad, literally, no pun intended. I'm not going to use a bag or anything, but I'm just going to use it on the wood. You do have 10 and 20 round mags, and something else I wanted to touch on, guys, if you ever go to a match or anything, don't do any sky loading. Don't close your bolt here, because if you do have an unintentional detonation or your fingers on the trigger or whatever, I cannot account for this round. So don't do any sky loading. Always load down towards the ground or somewhere you can account for that round if something catastrophic happens, and let's say you get a slam fire or something like that. So what we'll do is we will shoot at 100 first. I'm just going to kind of talk through this, and we'll just go just kind of rather quickly here. Here we go. Impact, 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 safety on. I'm going to go down into here. Of course, get caught on the freaking the rope. Let's see if I can hit the 200, holding 2 mils. Impact. 400, 4 mils. 500, 5 mils. So we do have a point of aim shift by not having that suppressor, so let's figure that out. All right, so it turns out without the Surefire suppressor at 550 yards, I am 0.8 of a mil high. So it is important to know, because that's a combination of gas regulation as well as suppressor. And a lot of people think that, you know, the suppressor is slowing the bullet down when in fact it might increase it just slightly. Not a lot, but just slightly. But you also have to remember that you are hanging a heavy weight on your barrel, which, believe it or not, even though this has a heavy contour, you're creating barrel droop. So contrary to popular belief that it slows it down, that's not the case. It's not going to vary much, maybe about 10 feet per second on your best suppressors, maybe just a hair more, maybe a hair less. But as long as I held about 0.8 below the target, I was able to hit it no problem. As a matter of fact, I could just go ahead and show you that right now. So I've taken the speed drop out, and the Kestrel, even though we ran the data and it was all good, at 550 yards, now keep in mind guys, this is not a full-size IPSC, this is actually a third IPSC at 550. It calls for 3.4 mils. So at 3.4, I am 0.8 high. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to back it down 0.8 to right there. No suppressor. Also don't get as much gas in the face. And let's see if we get an impact at 550. All right. Here we go. Dead center, worked exactly where it needed to. So it's always good to have 2 data cards, or at least run that dope in here and have a profile for the suppressed and non-suppressed, because it does make a big difference. All right, so in summary, what are my thoughts on the FN, the Mark 20 SSR? Well, I'll tell you what, it's very expensive. Just like anything FN, you are going to get what you pay for. But find me a semi-automatic military-grade rifle, something that's truly good enough for the military, like an SR-25 or an FN, something like that. FN's been involved with the military for as long as I can remember, everything from the SAW or Mini-Me to the 240s. I mean, there's so many FNs fielded by the military with hard use, it's hard not to rely on that name. They're known for their good barrels, and I think they've done a really, really good job with this system. I sure as heck wouldn't want anyone shooting at me with it. Now, I am glad that this is in 6.5 Creedmoor. What you're going to see is a higher hit probability at distance because of those 6.5, the VLD bullets. Just ballistically, they are superior to the 308. Now, the 308 is a great round. I am not scoffing at it. It has been around since Kingdom Come, but I do prefer the 6.5 Creedmoor over the 308 now. I just do. It's a softer recoil impulse, and like I said, when you can't argue with ballistics, you just can't. As far as the geometry of it, this is comfortable. I like the adjustability of the buttstock. The cheek riser, I really thought it was going to be a little better than what it was. It has a very steep taper here that wasn't quite as comfortable as I thought it would be, but it wasn't bad. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that it just isn't as good as I thought it was going to be. The trigger, big kudos to Geisley, because that's a great, great trigger in this rifle, and I think it's a great upgrade. I've upgraded all the other SCARs, whether it was 16s or 17s, with the SCAR triggers. I do like that it is a non-reciprocating charging handle, because back when I used to shoot heavy division with the SCAR 17, I can't tell you how many times I either got my thumb, which not that bad, it doesn't hurt that bad, but what would happen was if you were shooting up against a barricade, you could catch your charging handle, it would cause a malfunction. I like the fact that it does have Picatinis all over the place, plenty of places to attach any type of items, everything from thermals to you name it. This is also chosen to be the French sniper rifle. I think they bought like 2,600 units with Schmidt and Benders, so it is a tried and true system. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review of the FN, the Mark 20, or what you would call the SCAR 17 HPR. So you guys have a great week. We'll talk to you soon. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for me. I really am making a conscientious effort to try to grow this channel to make it worthwhile. And I try to bring you guys great content with great products. You guys take care, and a big shout out to Hornady as well as Kestrel Ballistics. Those guys have been really, really good at supporting the channel. We'll talk to you soon. Have a good one.